I never thought I'd find myself in this position, typing out my life story for some strangers on the internet. But here I am, sharing the raw, messy details of my marriage to Emily, the woman I thought I knew. I'll start by giving you a little background. We were together for nearly 8 years and married for 3 of those. We had the fairy tale beginnings, college sweethearts who promised to conquer the world together. Emily was smart, funny, and incredibly beautiful. I was proud to call her my wife. But lately things had felt off. It started small. Little things, you know. She became distant, wrapped up in her phone more than usual, and her late nights at work became more frequent. I brushed it off as her just being busy or stressed. After all, she was climbing the corporate ladder at a tech firm, and I was supportive of her ambition. But when I noticed that her once vibrant laugh was replaced by a forced smile, my gut began to twist with unease. One night as we lay in bed, I swear I heard her whisper another man's name in her sleep. It was just a flicker, a fleeting moment, but it was enough to send a chill down my spine. I brushed it off as my imagination, but the seed of doubt had been planted. I tried to shake it off, but I couldn't. I paid more attention to her behavior, noticing the way she would abruptly end conversations when I walked into the room or how she'd take her phone into the bathroom with her. A part of me wanted to believe it was nothing, but another part of me was screaming that something was very wrong. Then came the day that shattered my world. I had taken the afternoon off work to surprise her, thinking we could have a little date day. I walked into our apartment carrying a bouquet of her favorite flowers, ready to sweep her off her feet. Instead, I was met with an empty living room, the smell of perfume thick in the air. Her shoes were scattered by the door, but she was nowhere to be found. I checked my phone, and for the first time in months, I felt my heart race with dread. I sent her a text asking where she was. No response. I sank into the couch, feeling the weight of anxiety crushing me. About half an hour later, I heard the front door click open, and I quickly stood up, ready to greet her with a smile. But as I rounded the corner, my breath caught in my throat. There she was in the doorway, looking flustered. She had clearly just come from somewhere else, her dress slightly askew and her hair tousled. "Hey babe, I didn't think you'd be home today," she said, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Yeah, surprise. I brought flowers," I said, trying to hide the growing suspicion in my voice. "Where were you?" "Oh, just out with some coworkers, you know how it is," she replied with a wave of her hand, laughter escaping her lips like a nervous tick. But something about her demeanor felt off. The way she kept avoiding my gaze, the slight quiver in her voice, it all felt wrong. The tension between us grew like a thick fog, and while I wanted to confront her right then and there about my suspicions, I didn't want to ruin what was supposed to be a sweet moment. Instead, I decided to play it cool, but my mind was racing with possibilities. I felt like a detective, piecing together a puzzle that was missing crucial pieces. I decided I needed evidence if I was going to confront her about this. I spent the next few days in a haze of anxiety and suspicion, trying to gather my thoughts and figure out the truth. I started looking for clues, combing through her social media and checking her texts whenever I could. It felt wrong, but I needed to know. And when I finally found what I was looking for, it confirmed my worst fears. There it was, plain as day. A series of texts between her and a guy named Mark, a coworker she had mentioned once or twice. The casual tone of their conversation turned my stomach. Flirty comments, inside jokes, and then the final blow, a meetup scheduled for the following weekend, with hints of something more intimate. The walls of our marriage came crumbling down, layer by layer, as reality set in. I felt a wave of betrayal wash over me, mixed with disbelief. Emily, the woman I loved, was cheating on me. I was devastated. The anger bubbled up inside, ready to boil over. I couldn't shake the feeling of being a fool, of being played for a chump. It was time for a confrontation. I knew I couldn't stay silent any longer. I steeled myself for the conversation that would change everything. The day of the confrontation felt like it lasted forever. I spent the morning packing around our apartment, rehearsing what I was going to say. I had to gather my thoughts, but the overwhelming emotions made it difficult to focus. Anger, hurt, betrayal, it all mixed together into a gnawing ball in my stomach that wouldn't let up. Emily finally came home that evening, her usual bright smile in place, but I could see the spark had dimmed. She was wearing a dress I had never seen before, and for a moment I felt a rush of anger at the thought of her wearing it for someone else. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. This wasn't going to be easy. "Hey, can we talk?" I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. "Sure, what's up?" she replied, looking a bit too casual for my liking. I gestured toward the living room, and as we sat down, I felt the weight of the moment. "I found something today," I started, my heart pounding. Her expression shifted, and for a fleeting second I saw panic in her eyes. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice suddenly cautious. I pulled out my phone, and with trembling hands I opened the messages between her and Mark. I held the phone out to her, and as her eyes scanned the screen, I watched her face morph from confusion to horror. "Emily, you need to explain this," I said, trying to keep my voice calm despite the storm brewing inside me. This isn't what it looks like," she stammered, her voice rising. "Mark and I are just friends, it's nothing more, I swear." "Friends?" I shot back, feeling my anger boil over. "You're texting him about meeting up, talking about personal things, and you call that just friends? This isn't some high school drama, Emily. This is my life." She took a deep breath, trying to regain her composure. Okay, let's just take a step back here. You're overreacting." I promise it's not what you think," she insisted, her voice laced with desperation. "Not what I think? Then what exactly do you think it is? You're lying to me." I could feel tears of resentment welling up in my eyes, and I fought them back. I didn't want to show weakness, not now. "Look," she said, her voice dropping to a softer tone. "It started out innocent, and I swear it meant nothing. We were just venting about work. You know how stressful things have been lately." "Stressful? So cheating is your way of coping?" I quipped, my voice rising again. "What happened to us, Emily? We used to share everything with each other. When did it become okay to be with someone else?" "I didn't plan for this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you," she replied, her eyes wide and pleading. "You're my husband and I love you. I got caught up in it." "Caught up in it? You don't get to make excuses," I yelled, my heart racing. I couldn't believe the woman I loved was sitting in front of me, twisting the truth to fit her narrative. "You made a choice, Emily. You chose him over me." She looked down at her hands, her facade of confidence crumbling. "I'm sorry," she whispered, and for a brief moment I saw the remorse in her eyes, but it didn't matter. I didn't want her apologies, I wanted the truth. "You make promises to me, and then you go behind my back. You think I can just forgive you because you say you're sorry. Trust is everything in a marriage, and you shattered mine," I said, my voice dripping with disappointment. "I know, and I never wanted to hurt you. Please, can we just talk this through?" she begged, tears forming in her eyes, but I felt no sympathy. I had given her multiple chances to come clean, and she chose to hide the truth instead. The conversation spiraled into a heated argument, with both of us raising our voices until I finally had to step away. I felt like I was drowning in emotion, and I needed air. As I paced our small balcony, I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal that wrapped around my heart like a vice grip. I thought about the life we had built together, the late-night talks, the adventures we had gone on, the dreams we had shared. And now it felt like all of that was reduced to ashes, a memory tainted by her choices. The anger morphed into sadness, and I found myself questioning everything. Had it all been fake? Had I been living a lie for years? When I finally returned to the living room, Emily was sitting quietly, staring blankly at the floor. "I just don't know if I can trust you anymore," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. She looked up at me with tear-filled eyes, and for a moment I felt a flicker of the love I once had. But it was quickly extinguished by the cold reality of her betrayal. "I'm willing to do anything to fix this," she pleaded, desperation creeping into her voice, but I was done. I had to think of what was best for me. "Fix this? How do you fix something that's broken beyond repair?" I shot back. The truth was, I didn't know what to do next. My heart was torn between wanting to save my marriage and the reality that Emily had crossed a line that was impossible to uncross. The anger and betrayal settled in my chest, and I felt lost in a whirlwind of emotions. As I tried to process everything, I realized I had a choice to make. I could either fight for a love that felt shattered beyond recognition, or I could walk away from what was clearly a one-sided relationship. And at that moment, I was leaning toward the latter. The days following our confrontation felt like a surreal blur. I went back to work, but my mind was preoccupied. Emily tried to reach out to me, sending texts filled with apologies and pleas for a second chance, but I was in no mood to respond. I could see her desperation, but it only fueled my anger. I felt like a puppet whose strings had been cut, lost and aimless. Every time I walked into our apartment, I was met with reminders of the life we had built together. The photos of us from happier times hung on the walls, and the laughter we once shared echoed like a ghost haunting every room. I often caught myself staring at the wedding picture on the mantel, wondering how I had been so blind to the cracks forming beneath the surface. One night, I found myself sitting on the couch, scrolling through my phone, trying to distract myself from the turmoil in my heart. That's when I stumbled upon Mark's social media profile. I knew it was wrong, but I felt an overwhelming urge to learn more about him. I clicked through his pictures and posts, trying to piece together who this man was, this man who had taken my wife from me. As I scrolled through his feed, I saw pictures of him with friends, his charming smile plastered across every photo. He seemed like the kind of guy who thrived on attention, the life of the party. My stomach churned as I imagined him with Emily, each laugh and shared secret turning my world a shade darker. I felt rage boiling in my veins, rage at him, at her, at myself for not being enough. Eventually, I put my phone down and headed to bed, but sleep eluded me. I tossed and turned, replaying every moment of our relationship in my mind, trying to figure out where it all went wrong. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how much Emily had changed. She had become an enigma to me, a stranger wearing a mask of the woman I once loved dearly. The next day, I decided to confront her again, but this time, I wouldn't approach it with anger. Instead, I wanted to understand her motivations. I wanted to know why she had felt the need to cheat. I needed clarity, although part of me feared that the answers might hurt even more. When I got home from work that evening, I found her sitting on the couch, her head buried in her hands. She looked up as I walked in, and the sorrow etched on her face tugged at the frayed edges of my heart. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady. "I know," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm so sorry for everything. I messed up. I don't expect you to forgive me, but please just let me explain." "Go ahead," I urged, trying to remain calm despite the storm raging within me. Emily took a moment, collecting her thoughts as she was preparing for a speech. I don't know how to explain it, but I was feeling lost. My career was consuming me, and I felt like I was drowning in the pressure. Mark was there for me when I needed someone to talk to. It just spiraled from there. She paused, her voice breaking. "I never meant for it to go this far. I know it sounds like an excuse, but it's the truth." Her words hung in the air like a heavy fog, and I found myself wrestling with a mix of compassion and sheer disbelief. "So you thought it was okay to seek comfort in someone else? You thought it was okay to betray your husband?" I asked, my voice low but laced with hurt. "I didn't think it through. I never wanted to hurt you. I was caught up in the moment," she admitted, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I regret every second of it. I wish I could take it back." "I don't understand how you could do this to me," I replied, the hurt spilling over. "I gave you everything. We had plans, dreams, and you threw it all away for a fling. What does that say about our marriage?" She fell silent, and I could see the weight of shame pressing down on her. "I know I messed up and I can't take it back, but I love you and I want to make this work. I'll do whatever it takes." Hearing her say that made my heart ache. I wanted to believe her, but the betrayal had left deep scars. "You say you love me, but how can I trust you again? How do I know that this won't happen again?" I felt my voice quivering, the vulnerability almost too much to bear. "I'll prove it to you," she urged. "I'll cut all ties with Mark. I'll go to counseling. I'll do anything you ask. Just don't give up on us." I looked into her eyes, searching for any semblance of truth in her words, but all I saw was desperation. "And what if I can't get past this? What if I can't trust you the same way again?" I asked, my voice trembling with heartache. She reached across the couch, taking my hand in hers. "Then I'll spend every day trying to earn that trust back. I promise. I know I've shattered everything, but I love you. I can't imagine my life without you." I felt torn in two. My heart wanted to believe in the love we once shared, but my mind screamed at me to run. I was standing at a crossroads, and the next step I took could either lead to healing or deeper betrayal. I took a deep breath, wrestling with my emotions. The road ahead felt uncertain, and I needed time to process everything. "I can't make any promises right now, Emily," I said, finally pulling my hand away. "I need time to think about what I want. I can't pretend that everything is okay. Right now, nothing feels okay." As I walked away, I felt the weight of the world pressing down on me. The aftermath of her betrayal left me feeling hollow, and I realized that the journey ahead would be long and complicated. I still loved her, but love alone wasn't enough to fix what had been broken. I had decisions to make, and I needed to figure out if I was willing to fight for a love marred by deceit. The following weeks felt like a roller coaster, a blur of emotions that I struggled to navigate. I went to work each day, putting on a brave face, while inside I was a whirlwind of confusion and heartache. Emily tried to reach out to me constantly, texting me throughout the day with sweet messages and reminders of her love. But I was still grappling with the betrayal, and no matter how much I wanted to believe her, I found myself stuck in this emotional limbo. I was torn between wanting to give her a chance and the fear of getting hurt again. I oscillated between anger and pity. It became clear that her affair wasn't just a moment of weakness. It was a desperate cry for help, a sign that she was struggling with something deeper. And while I understood that, it didn't erase the pain I felt. One evening, I came home to find her sitting on the couch, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. I could tell she had prepared for this moment. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "I know I've hurt you, and I want to make things right. I found a therapist who specializes in relationships, and I made an appointment for us." I looked at her, my heart pounding. On one hand, the gesture felt genuine. On the other, it felt like a last-ditch effort to save face. "Emily, I don't know if therapy is going to fix what's broken between us. You can't just throw a Band-Aid on this and expect everything to be fine," I replied, my tone cautious. "I get that," she said, tears welling in her eyes. "But I need you to understand. I'm willing to do the work. I don't want to lose you. I'll do anything you want me to do, just please give me a chance." I could see the sincerity in her eyes, but sincerity alone wasn't enough. There was a part of me that wanted to take her hand and reassure her that everything would be okay, but the other part, the one that was bruised and battered, held me back. "I need to think about it," I said finally. "I'm not ready to make any decisions right now." The look on her face was one of defeat, but I did have the energy to reassure her. I was exhausted. I spent nights lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, while memories of our life together played on a loop in my mind. I thought of our wedding day, the vows we exchanged, and the dreams we shared for the future. It felt like a cruel joke now, tainted by the reality of her infidelity. As time passed, I started to notice changes in Emily. She seemed more committed, putting in effort to make things work. She would cook dinner more often, clean the house, and even try to bring back the little moments of intimacy we once shared, like cuddling on the couch and watching our favorite shows. But I was still on guard, waiting for the other shoe to drop. I couldn't shake the thought that she might still be hiding something. One day, while she was in the shower, I found myself scrolling through her phone again. I knew I shouldn't, but the temptation was too strong. As I unlocked it, I felt a mix of guilt and determination. I needed to know if she was truly committed to fixing things, or if her promises were just words. I opened her messages and scrolled through her conversations. At first, I didn't find anything alarming, just the usual chats with her friends. But then I saw it, an unread message from Mark. My heart raced as I clicked on it, and there it was, a simple "Hey, just checking in, hope you're doing well." My stomach dropped. I felt that familiar surge of anger rising to the surface. I was furious. How could she? How could she pretend to be working on our relationship while still communicating with him? I didn't even need to read her reply to feel betrayed all over again. Just then, I heard the shower turn off and panic washed over me. I quickly put her phone back where it belonged and sat on the couch, trying to calm my racing heart. Emily came out, wrapped in a towel, her hair damp and her face fresh. The moment she saw me, her smile faded slightly. "What's wrong?" she asked, concern flooding her voice. Nothing, I replied, forcing a smile that felt foreign. Just thinking. As we sat together that evening, the tension hung in the air like a dense fog. I wanted to confront her, to lay out what I had discovered, but I didn't want to start another argument. Deep down, I was terrified that if I confronted her about Mark, she might lash out or deny it. I was already walking a tightrope, and one wrong step could send me tumbling into despair. Days went by, and the unease became unbearable. I finally decided it was time to have another conversation, to address the elephant in the room. I had to know if she was truly ready to let Mark go or if she was just stringing me along while keeping her options open. "Emily, can we talk?" I said one night after dinner, my heart racing. "Sure, what's on your mind?" she asked, looking genuinely curious. "I found a message from Mark the other day," I said, my voice steady but laced with tension. "You're still talking to him, and I need to know why." Her expression shifted from curiosity to guilt in an instant. I I was going to tell you," she stammered, but I could hear the cracks in her voice. "I just didn't want to upset you." "Upset me? You think this doesn't upset me?" I shot back, frustration spilling over. "You're still in contact with him, Emily. You're still keeping that door open, and it hurts. I thought we were trying to fix this." "I swear it was just a friendly message," she pleaded. "I didn't respond. I promise you I'm all in for us. I just didn't know how to cut him off completely without hurting his feelings." "Hurt his feelings? What about mine?" I felt my voice rising. "I'm the one who's been hurt. You can't expect me to sit here and pretend everything is fine when you're still keeping a part of your life with him. This isn't just about you, Emily. This is about the trust we built together, and you're shattering it again." Tears filled her eyes as she finally started to see the gravity of her actions. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. I thought I could handle it without causing more drama. I'm afraid of losing you, and I didn't know how to navigate this mess." "I can't do this anymore," I said, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. "Every time I think we're making progress, you pull me back into this uncertainty. I can't live like this. If you want to make this work, you have to cut all ties with him. No more messages, no more excuses." Emily nodded, her shoulders trembling. "I will, I promise. I'll block him, and I'll show you I'm serious about us." I looked into her eyes, hoping to find some glimmer of the woman I fell in love with. "This is your last chance, Emily. I want to believe you, but I need you to understand how much this hurts. If you truly want to fix this, you have to be all in." As I watched her nod, I felt a flicker of hope battling against the overwhelming fear of being hurt again. I couldn't predict the future, but I knew that if we were going to move forward, it had to start with honesty and commitment from both of us. As uncertain as I felt, I was willing to take that leap, one last time. In the weeks that followed, Emily worked hard to prove her commitment. She deleted Mark's number right in front of me and blocked him on all social media platforms, insisting that I could check if I wanted. Her gestures felt promising, but I was still walking on eggshells. The past months had left me emotionally battered, and rebuilding trust was going to take time. Time I wasn't sure I had the strength for. We started going to couples therapy together, and I truthfully didn't know what to expect. Therapist Karen was warm and approachable, and I felt a glimmer of hope when she encouraged us to speak openly about our feelings. For the first time in a while, I felt like I was talking to someone who wasn't emotionally attached to either of us, someone who could help us navigate this storm. During our first session, I opened up about my feelings of betrayal and confusion. "I just feel like I'm stuck," I confessed. "Every time I think I'm over it, something reminds me of what happened. Every time I see her on her phone, my heart races, and I can't help but feel that she's hiding something." "Emily, how does that make you feel?" Karen asked gently. "I understand where he's coming from," she said, tears welling in her eyes. "I messed up, and I know I shattered his trust. I'm terrified of losing him, and I want to do everything right, but I also understand that I can't just erase what I did." Karen nodded. "It's important to acknowledge the hurt and the fear on both sides. Trust is rebuilt over time through consistent actions. How can you show him that you're committed to making this work?" Emily took a deep breath. "I'll be transparent. I'll communicate more openly about my feelings, and I'll work on being more present. I won't let my work consume me like before." Hearing her say that brought a wave of emotion. I wanted to believe her, but it was hard to shake off the past. Each session became a slow march toward healing, with both of us learning to express our fears and hopes. I could see the effort she was putting in, yet I found myself struggling to meet her halfway. I often left therapy feeling drained, caught between wanting to forgive her and the fear of being hurt again. Emily seemed determined to change, but my own insecurities gnawed at me. I wanted to trust her, but the specter of Mark lingered in the back of my mind like an unwelcome guest. As time passed, I began to notice changes in our daily lives. Emily was making an effort to include me in her world, inviting me to work events and sharing more about her day-to-day experiences. We found ourselves laughing again, reminiscing about the good times and creating new memories that began to overshadow the darker moments. One evening, we decided to go out for dinner, just the two of us. It felt nice to be outside the confines of our home, which had become laden with tension. As we sat across from each other, our conversation flowed easily. I felt a sense of normalcy returning, and for a moment I allowed myself to relax. That is, until I noticed a familiar face at a nearby table, Mark. I froze, the warmth of the evening suddenly replaced by an icy chill. Emily noticed the shift in my demeanor and followed my gaze. "What's wrong?" she asked, her expression turning concerned. When I pointed out Mark, I could see her stiffen. "Oh, I didn't know he was here," she said, her voice faltering. "Should we go?" "No, it's fine," I replied, trying to mask the knot tightening in my stomach. I forced myself to focus on Emily, but I felt my heart racing, the fear bubbling back up to the surface. The unease lingered as I tried to engage in conversation, but my mind kept wandering back to Mark. "Are you okay?" Emily asked, her voice laced with concern. "You seem really tense." "I'm fine," I said, forcing a smile, but inside I was anything but fine. I couldn't shake the thought of her past choices, and seeing Mark only amplified my insecurities. We finished dinner, but the drive home was quiet. I could feel the weight of unspoken words hovering between us. Once we got home, I finally broke the silence. "Seeing him tonight, it bothered me more than I thought it would," I admitted, my voice trembling slightly. "I'm sorry," she said, her eyes wide with understanding. "I didn't expect to see him either. I know this is difficult." "Do you still think about him?" I asked bluntly, needing honesty more than ever. "No," she exclaimed, her voice filled with urgency. "I swear I'm focused on our future. Mark was a mistake and I want to move past it. I'm committed to you. I want to be with you." Her words hit me like a wave, a mix of reassurance and uncertainty. I could see the sincerity in her eyes, but the shadows of doubt still lingered. "I want to believe that, I really do," I said, my voice softer now. "But it's hard when the past keeps coming back to haunt me." "I'll do whatever it takes to help you feel secure," she promised, reaching out to hold my hand. "I don't want to lose you. We've come too far to let this ruin us." As I looked into her eyes, I felt a flicker of hope. I had to remind myself that healing took time, and maybe, just maybe, we could weather this storm together. But I also knew that I had to be honest with myself. I needed to set boundaries and communicate my fears if we were going to make this work. "I need to know that you'll always put our relationship first," I said finally. "Let's make a pact. No more secrets, no more communication. With Mark, I want us to be transparent with each other." "I agree," she said, squeezing my hand tightly. "Let's start fresh. No more looking back." As the night wore on, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. This was a pivotal moment in our relationship, and while there were no guarantees, I knew we had to keep pushing forward. I realized that love could be messy, but it could also be a powerful catalyst for change. We were both willing to fight for what we had, and for the first time in a while, I felt cautiously optimistic about our future. But the journey wasn't over, not yet. There were still hurdles to overcome, and I knew that navigating the road ahead would require patience, understanding, and a whole lot of communication. The weeks that followed felt like we were walking on a tightrope, teetering between healing and slipping back into turmoil. Emily and I kept attending therapy sessions, and each week brought new challenges. Some days were better than others, and I often found myself reflecting on the progress we were making. Slowly, I found a renewed sense of trust. However, the journey felt like a roller coaster with ups and downs that left me emotionally exhausted but strangely hopeful. One night as we lay in bed, I turned to her, contemplating how far we had come. "I've been thinking about everything," I said softly. "About us, our future." She turned to face me, her expression a mixture of curiosity and concern. "What's on your mind?" I realized that while I was hurt, I also learned a lot about myself through this process. I admitted. I learned how important communication is and that love is a choice we make every day. "I want to keep choosing you, but I also need to know that you're committed to doing the same." Emily nodded, her eyes shining with understanding. "I want this too. I want to rebuild what we lost, brick by brick. I know I messed up, but I'm willing to do the work." That conversation marked a turning point for us. It felt as if we were finally starting to emerge from the shadow of her betrayal. We began discussing our dreams again, the plans we had for the future, and what it meant to us both to be together. It felt liberating, like we were shedding the weight of the past and looking toward the horizon. As we continued to talk, I began to feel a shift in our dynamic. Emily became more open about her feelings and began to share her struggles with stress and anxiety, which had once led her to seek comfort elsewhere. I listened, really listened, and for the first time, I felt like we were on the same team again. Then one day, Emily approached me with a proposition that surprised me. "I want to take a trip together, just the two of us. A chance to reconnect away from all the distractions," she said, her voice filled with excitement. It felt like a bold step, but I was game. We decided to visit a cabin in the woods for a long weekend, just a few days away from the hustle and bustle of our daily lives. It was a chance to rekindle the intimacy we had lost and to truly connect without outside interference. As we settled into the cabin, surrounded by nature, I felt something shift inside me. The stillness of the woods, the chirping of the birds, and the crackling of the fire in the hearth created an atmosphere of peace that we both desperately needed. For the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful. That evening, we sat outside on the porch, wrapped in blankets as the sun set and the stars began to twinkle overhead. I couldn't help but smile as I watched Emily laugh, her eyes sparkling with joy. It felt like a glimpse of the woman I had fallen in love with again. "Can we talk about our future?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light while still acknowledging the weight of the question. "Absolutely," she replied, her smile fading slightly as she recognized the seriousness of the conversation. "What are you thinking?" "I want to make this work," I said, feeling a surge of determination. "But we need to build a solid foundation. I want to set goals together, things we can look forward to. I want to know that we're both on the same page." She nodded earnestly. "That sounds perfect. We can plan our lives together instead of letting the past define us. I want us to be stronger than ever." We spent the rest of that evening talking under the stars, sharing our hopes, dreams, and visions for the future. For the first time since everything had unraveled, I felt a sense of clarity. We were both committed to moving forward, and it felt good to finally breathe again. As the trip came to an end, I realized that the healing process was far from perfect. There would still be challenges, moments of doubt, and reminders of the past, but I was willing to face them head-on with Emily by my side. I had learned that love isn't just about the good times, it's also about enduring the storms together. Back at home, we continued our journey of healing, and while the road was still rocky at times, I felt more equipped to navigate the bumps along the way. We learned to communicate better, to express our needs and fears openly, and to support each other through the tough times. I saw Emily's dedication, and in return, I made a conscious effort to be more present and attentive. In therapy, we discussed the importance of building a new narrative, one that wasn't defined by betrayal, but rather by resilience and growth. With each session, I felt more confident in our ability to overcome adversity. Eventually, we reached a point where we could finally put the past behind us. It didn't mean we forgot, but we had learned from the experience. We emerged, not unscathed, but with a deeper understanding of love and commitment. As I reflect on it now, I realize that the journey of healing taught me valuable lessons about trust, vulnerability, and the power of love. I learned that relationships require effort, but when both partners are willing to fight for one another, it can lead to something even more beautiful. I'm proud to say that Emily and I have rebuilt our relationship from the ground up. We've created a stronger bond, one that is rooted in honesty, openness, and unwavering support. Life is still unpredictable, but now we face it together, hand in hand, ready for whatever comes our way.